it's definitely a cool way to be able to see the country, see the world, and be able to travel and have like a nice experience. So I would encourage anybody to do it.
If you're a maximalist, this is probably not for you.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like I had to embrace a more minimalist part of life for a period of time, just because, again, we talk about limited space, limited weight. But what I love about RVing is that it shows you what you can live without, what you don't need.
Before we started RVing full time, before we made the transition, we were living in Washington, D.C. And then Fox actually came up with an idea for us to transition into living full time in an RV to save money. And so that we could be able to travel, save money, and also like pay down debt. Because where we were, the rent was increasing and it was getting a little bit more difficult to actually maintain everything. So we were trying to figure out a way to cut costs and lower the cost of living and be able to travel and also pursue some of our dreams and stuff like that. So that was the initial plan. I think we had a great experience because once we made that transition, we had to make a lot of adjustments to being on the road, working on the road, and also like you mentioned earlier about, adjusting to everything that's going on with the pandemic, and we weren't able to go to them. And it also started impacting our finances. So to put ourselves in a better position, we had to stop and stay with family for a period of time. And recently we actually got a place that we can stay at part-time while we save up some money and try to ride out this wave of the pandemic.
So what you're saying, if I can summarize it, is that RVing during the pandemic is not that much fun because RV parks are closed and you simply can't get in, right? And because the state lines are closed, quarantining is not as much fun as it used to be before.
It's definitely like some places are starting to open back up.
Yeah, it depends on what state you're in.
Yeah, it depends on the state that you're in and how you feel about traveling.
Yeah.
And wanting to be around other people. If there's you're very low risk, then you probably won't travel that much. But if you don't mind and you're really just winging it and going out there and don't really care about the pandemic, then I'm sure there's plenty of opportunity if you want to go boondocking or just stand on the road. Yeah, in more remote areas.
Did it make your life less expensive to go RVing? What is the result?
Think in some ways yes, in some ways no. So one thing that I don't think we really considered was travel, like gas, like simple things like gas and stay, like park stay and things like that, and things breaking down. I think we didn't have to pay, say, if your rent is like $1,500 a month. We didn't have to pay that a month. But we are paying for groceries, we are paying for gas, and I also think we were traveling too often. When we first started. And so that was eating up a lot of our money.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely that. Like we probably overestimated how much it would be to travel as much as we did initially. Because we were visiting people. We were
underestimated.
Underestimated. Yeah. So we were visiting family, visiting friends. We were doing a lot. We were trying to do as much as we could, which wasn't a good idea because it was just overwhelming, really. Financially, mentally, and even emotionally. Because while we were on the road, it was very easy for us to get like homesick. But if we took the time to like really slow down and kind of pace ourselves, I think we would have done a lot better on saving money. Because another part was, we were getting groceries and stuff. We were also eating out a lot. But we figured that out later, like, okay, we need to readjust how we're actually traveling so that we could be better financially.
Yeah. And I also think finances, like emotions play a huge part in finances because I think we were so homesick, and I was honestly struggling with depression just starting out RVing. There were a lot of things. I was trying to feed myself happiness. I was trying to spend money to be happy. And I think sometimes that we really don't take into consideration like how our emotions play in our spending. Because if I was more stable, if I was, more calm and better adjusted to our new lifestyle, then I probably wouldn't have a problem with saving money and just eating in the RV. But because I long so much for home and for friends and for familiar things, I wanted to eat at familiar places, which is like carry out or, Pizza Hut or exactly. So
when RVing, how does it change your behavior as a consumer as compared to other consumers, right? So, for example, online ordering would become, which is a convenience for everyone else, may become a hassle for you. You actually need to know where you're going to be in 2 weeks when the stuff arrives. What do you do? How do you send your stuff to yourself when you're constantly on the move?
One benefit, like for places like Amazon, like they have Amazon lockers. So if you know where you're going to be in 2 weeks or like in 2 days, then you can order things and they'll be sent there and you can pick it up from there. Yeah. But like you said, for the specialty things, sometimes we just have to wait. We have to postpone our moves. We can't go anywhere. One, because things are broken, but then also because we have to wait for the part to come in. Yeah. And I think as a consumer, I think we're so used to getting things like right now, like right here, right now. And while we're RVing, for a lot of areas of our lives, it helped us to slow down and be more patient. Like that was really just the only option we had, was to be patient. Right. And yeah, you don't get everything you want right away.
Yeah. So. And another change would be you're very mindful on the stuff that you do buy because you don't have a lot of storage space. So even while we were traveling, if we wanted to pick up knickknacks or like souvenirs, we have to be very, very specific on what we're trying to get because we don't have a lot of space, and so that becomes very critical. But if you're in a what we call a sticks and bricks location, if you're going on travel, you can get as much as you can put in your car and bring it back and then store it in the closet. That's fine. But that's not the case. So you have to be very strategic and very mindful on what you're trying to buy, and then also you don't want that much clutter in your space because an RV is already a small space. Like even the larger ones, which are some of them are very nice, but it's still not a full-blown house, so you have to be very mindful so that you're not super cluttered in your space.
And also you have to be mindful about the weight too. Like even if you only have a few items, RVs can only carry a certain amount of weight of load before like your tires pop or like it burns the engine out. And so for a lot of things, we couldn't get a lot of the heavy things. So a lot of the stuff that we did buy had to be multifunctional. Like it couldn't just do one thing. Like it has to be able to do a bunch of things and save us time. So like with our appliances for cooking, like, okay, so we're not going to have a whole bunch of pots and pans, but we can use an Instapot so that we can cook multiple things in one thing. And it's not going to like weigh down the RV or take up some.
So what can you say about RVing and consumers, right? Shopping in the stores, is it the same thing? Shopping online when you RV. So you said about size of the items that you're buying, weight of the items, that is important. What else is important for you when doing shopping? Are you doing weekly shopping or are you doing a couple of days worth of shopping?
It's usually a week at a time.
Yeah.
Typically, a week at a time, which is, I would say, another thing to be mindful of. In regards to space, like our refrigerator isn't necessarily the same size of a normal, normal refrigerator. Mm-hmm. So we're very, very strategic on like, okay, what are we going to have to eat this week and stuff like that. We can't just have things just sitting in there.
No.
So we just have to use all of that space strategically. So yeah, it's definitely a week at a time. I mean, certain stuff, like say toilet paper, we might have, packs of toilet paper stored away, but that, that's not like, that'll last a while.
Yeah. It won't degrade. It won't go bad.
Yeah.
But definitely for food, definitely a week at a time. Meals are planned, like we said. Like it's we have snacks, but it's not really, we don't really have a lot of space for snacks. Yeah. So it's like, and it really changes what you can cook.
Right.
Because of the space. So our kitchen, some people's RVs kitchens are huge. Our kitchen was very small. So we couldn't make, we couldn't have 3 things going at the same time. It was not enough space. So we have to make like one pot meals, like spaghetti or, burgers or something, like something simple that's not going to take up a lot of space and a lot of energy from the RV. So that's
also take into consideration like our resources. So say we were boondocking, that means we have limited access to water, limited access to like propane, limited access to like we have solar panels on our RV, but again, if it's cloudy, like where we are right now, it's cloudy, so we wouldn't get a full charge.
Yeah.
So we have to be very mindful of, okay, what are we cooking? Yeah. What time are we cooking? Because if we cook at night and we run out of power, we're just gonna have uncooked food. Like it's not gonna work out. So being mindful of all of that comes into play. So you definitely try to get things that are easy to clean up, things that are easy to prepare, and don't take a long time, because you don't want to be stuck with half-cooked food.
Do you cook on electrical stove?
No, our stove is propane, but what we try to do typically is use the Instapot.
Yeah, with the solar panels and the generator and stuff.
How does the solar panel work with RV?
So our RV didn't come with panels. We had to purchase them we purchased them off Amazon. We did a lot of research, because we wanted to get the most bang for our buck. And so Miles had to feed in we had to install it on top, and then Miles had to feed in the solar panels into the RV, to the battery, to the inverter, so that we can actually get some energy out of it. But I think it lasted pretty good. We could cook. Instapot, for example, takes a lot of energy out of your power system, because just because of what it does, it cooks so fast. And so we would still have enough to charge our batteries to watch TV if we wanted to.
Yeah. So like, again, we would try to time things as much as possible. And also, we didn't have that many appliances like that. Our heavy duty appliances were always for cooking. So we would have our laptops to work with and things like that. But once they were charged, we just unplug it so that the laptop's just running off the battery. So a good full day charge would be able to do everything. We're able to do lunch, dinner, charge our laptops, and then later we were, sometimes watching DVDs and stuff on our TV or whatever, and that would be fine. Like, we wouldn't completely drain the batteries, which was also helpful. The other thing that was helpful about that is that while we were traveling, we were usually places where it wasn't too hot or where it wasn't too cold. Because one of the first times I stayed in the RV overnight was around winter time, and it was pretty cold. And so I was trying to use the heater, but no, like the heater is definitely a heavy draining, item. Yeah. And so I think I had the heater in for maybe 45 minutes and it wiped it out. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll just be cold.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely something you got to think about when you're RVing, because RVs are not well insulated. So if it's hot outside, it's going to be hot in there. If it's cold outside, it's going to be cold. So mild temperature is the best.
You turn on the engine on the cold night to heat it up, to warm it up. You do it through the engine, or how do you keep warm when it's cold outside?
Sometimes, but there is a onboard heater for the RV, and it uses propane. And so we would do that as long as the propane tank was full.
But most nights we just had a down blanket. We just wrapped ourselves up.
And then I think we had some smaller heaters that we would let run for a little bit and then just turn it off. But sometimes we would definitely be running the engine and just let the heat from the cab come into where we're sitting. The same thing with the air conditioning too.
What is your best and worst time during the RV, right? What is your best moments and what are the worst moments that you can highlight for us?
One of the best moments for me was when we got to boondocking Colorado. And so boondocking is just like RVing without any hookups. So you don't have any water, you don't have any sewage. It's really just you just kind of hanging out wherever you are. So people do it in parking lots, people do it in remote areas, and where we were in the woods, in a national forest. And so it was really nice because it's very peaceful. There wasn't a lot of noise. It was just us and the land. And I think for me, just getting away from like all the noise, all the hustle and bustle, was just very like therapeutic. And also, we weren't that far from, I guess, civilization, so to speak. But it was far enough where we couldn't hear cars driving down the highway. We couldn't, hear, I guess, just people. Like, it was really just people like spaced out really far apart. And for me, that was like the best experience. There was no light pollution, so that we can go outside and see like the Milky Way. Like, that's crazy. I've never seen it before with my own eyes. And I think being in that remote area allowed us to be able to see like the magical stuff like that.
Yeah, I was just going to agree and say I think our time in Colorado was probably the best, because just the sights, like from where we are on the East Coast, we don't see a lot of the mountains or a lot of the forest the way that it is out that way. So it was really, really great.
Yeah. The worst time.
The worst time is stuff breaking.
Yeah.
Whether it's flat tires or our toilet broke, and we had to take some time to replace that and things like that. So anytime anything breaks,
or
because
pops, or deflate.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's not as super convenient. Because there's some stuff that we were able to pick up from like Home Depot or like Lowe's, but other things were kind of special. Like there were very specialty things that we had to order online.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, again, waiting. Like you had to wait to get this. Like, I have to get this piece. Or like, for example, when we first got our RV and we went on a short trip to Assateague Island, during that time, we found out that there was a piece in our water system that broke. And so it wouldn't pump water.
Yeah.
So it would just be making lots of noise. But to get that piece, we had to order it offline and then had to wait a couple of weeks until we got it. So that put a damper again on our travels.
Yeah.
So stuff breaking is always the worst.
What kind of RV do you have?
We have a 2014 Thor Majestic. It's a Class C RV.
What is your experience with dealership services, with quality of the RV as a whole? And did you buy it new or used when you started this?
Just starting out, we went to like the regular dealership. So that would be like Camping World or RV World. And we didn't really enjoy that experience. It was the RVs were pretty expensive. They're pretty new. They tell you not to buy new because it still has kinks in it. Like the way that RVs are made, sometimes they're really cheap, just being honest.
Yeah.
And when they're new, they're more liable to be broken. When they're used, people are more liable to break. When they're used, people have already worked out its kinks. People have gotten stuff fixed and like broken it in. And so usually you have a better quality RV with used RVs. And also one thing to note is that new RVs, they depreciate as soon as you drive them off the lot. They depreciate so much. And used usually are a lot more cheaper. But yeah, so that was our first experience with just going to RV World, and we did not like it. People were kind of cold if they didn't feel like you were going to get a sale. They were kind of like not very helpful. It was just kind of like,
we bought our RV used from Cruise America, which is actually, a company that allows people to rent RVs. And so for us, since we were going to be living in an RV full time, and this was going to be our first RV that we're purchasing, we wanted something that was going to be as simple as possible and as reliable as possible. We went used. Instead of purchasing an RV new, we decided to go used because a lot of experiences that people, from what we found from other reviews and things like that, buying new is not really the way to go because you're going to spend a lot of money on something that will probably break down a lot. And we didn't want that since we were going to be living in our RV full time. Yeah. We purchased our RV from Cruise America, which is a service or a company that rents RVs and gives you that option. And they also sell used RVs. And so for us, because we were looking for something that we can be stable in and live in full time, we wanted to make sure, okay, what we're getting is going to be able to take whatever we put at it. And it's also that it's very simple. The RV that we have doesn't have slides or anything like that. It's just really just a truck with a space to live on. Right. And so it's pretty simplistic. And it works great for us. Like a lot of the issues that we had while we're on the road was really learning curve issues. So like issues with the tires and learning that, because you're driving this vehicle, you probably shouldn't be driving as fast as everybody else. You might need to be in the slow lane.
Yeah.
So adjusting to that and being mindful on the type of roads that you're on. For a while, we were trying to avoid paying tolls in certain places. So we were going on a lot of back roads and things like that.
Not a good idea.
Probably not the best idea. So that, did some wear and tear on our vehicle. But like Fox, we were mentioning about the different dealerships like we went to.
Oh yeah. So first we went to RV World and Camping World. And so we just thought, we didn't where to start. We'll just go there. But one thing about them is that they take commission. And so if you're not really like going to purchase something right then and there, they're less apt to help you generally. I'm sure they're really kind people, but I also understand they're trying to make some money. So if they don't think they're going to make any money, then they're not going to give as much attention to detail. And with Cruise America, they don't work on commission. So they're more apt to help you. They're more willing to offer you advice. Even if you don't go with them, they're still saying, hey, this is what it's for. This is what it's not for. The gentleman that really helped us out with our RV was amazing. When it comes to maintaining your RV or getting it fixed, Camping World and RV World tend to have RVs backed up. Some people will come in for a simple fix for, say, like a faucet or something, and their RV will be kept there for months at a time. And so if we are full-time RVers, then that's not going to work. Yeah. Like, we don't have anywhere to stay for 3 months to get a faucet fixed. Yeah. But also for our RV, because it's so simple, a lot of the fixes we did ourselves. Yeah. Besides changing the tire, because the tires are huge, we basically fixed everything ourselves, and it's nothing that you can't look up on YouTube.
And we would definitely recommend trying to get something used in regards to like price, and then also at the point that you're getting something used, a lot of the kinks and things are worked out in that vehicle that you're getting.
Yes, because RVs are made pretty cheaply.
What are your plans? Are you going to come back to full-time RVing when the life becomes normal again?
We would like to do that, but I think our initial step will probably to go like part-time. Mm-hmm. So instead of traveling completely full-time, we might plan trips out so that we could travel for maybe 2 to 3 months at a time, just until we can resituate ourselves.
Yeah,
like
financially. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Definitely with regards to the pandemic, but also financially and things like that, because one of the things that I guess at a low point of our full-time RVing experience is like, there were moments where we like ran out of money.
And I think for a lot of people who full-time now, either one, they're retired, so they're living off of, I guess, their pension or retirement money, things like that, which is fine. But also I think some other people who full-time also have businesses back home or like online businesses. Yeah. And so for us, like, we still have to get that like passive income, if we want to have passive income, started up and running. And that takes time, and that takes effort. And so I think the wise thing for us to do right now is, like Miles said, is just to be stationary for a minute, figure out like what is our plan while we can travel, like save up money and then go, like you said, away for 3 months at a time to actually go out somewhere and enjoy it, as opposed to going out there and be stressed about like trying to make money to support the lifestyle.
Definitely. I think it's something everybody should try at least once. Like, even if you are, one of the first things that we did before we really ventured into full-time RVing is that we got an Airbnb stay in a fifth wheel. I think it was in South Carolina or something like that.
Charleston.
Yeah, it was in Charleston. Yeah. And so I would suggest doing that, whether it's renting an RV or doing an Airbnb, just so you can understand and have that feeling of it. Because I think it's a really cool experience. Like, before we went full time, I had never RV'd. I had no experience with it. Fox did, though. Like, her and her family would RV when she was a child and stuff like that. But it definitely was me jumping into the deep end once we moved into full time. So, I mean, I would encourage anybody to do it. And definitely realize that it's an experience. So, you're not going to know everything when you do it. Even if you want to watch all the YouTube videos and listen to all the podcasts and stuff like that, you're not going to know everything. But it's definitely a cool way to be able to see the country, see the world, and be able to travel and have like a nice experience. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage anybody to do it.
Yeah. I would also say, if you're a maximalist, this is probably not for you. Yeah. I definitely feel like I had to embrace a more minimalist part of life for a period of time, just because, again, we talk about limited space, limited weight. But what I love about RVing is that it shows you what you can live without, what you don't need, like all the stuff that we get as consumers that we think, oh, I can't live without this. Yeah. There are a lot of things when we were packing up that RV that we're just like, well,
throw it away. We don't need it.
And I really feel like it helps you to buy quality products over like a lot of products, over quantity. So that's one thing I feel like RVing does. And it also helps you to slow down. Just like we said, we kept getting breakdowns, our tires kept popping. And at first it was very frustrating because we felt like we had to go somewhere. But I think the more that we started to RV, the more that we just kind of took life as it came. It's like, okay, well, just like this pandemic, who knows where we're going to be next month? I have no idea, but all I can do is enjoy today and what today brings. And every day is an adventure, honestly. And it's up to you to decide whether that adventure is going to piss you off or it's going to be like, okay, this was a time for us to slow down.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you.